President Trump's trip to the Pacific Rim looks by all accounts to be a smashing success, with a little bit of help from his granddaughter. Also, Donna Brazile, the former chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee, may have just sunk any hope that Hillary Clinton has at becoming the nominee in 2020. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. You may have heard that the Virginia governor's race was won by the Democrat, and the media is finally having their day to crow about the danger that Donald Trump poses for the Republican Party. Because up until this past Tuesday, every election after, special election, whatever it was, filling a vacancy, every election of significance after the president's victory was won by a Republican. Didn't go that way on Tuesday night, especially in Virginia. A couple things about Virginia. Number one, Ed Gillespie, who was the Republican candidate, he did not campaign with President Trump. Never met the president. Now, President Trump was tweeting on his behalf occasionally, but he did not want, and nor did he ask for, and nor did he have President Trump campaign with him. So his advisors, party hacks, establishment men, establishment women, they said to him, distance yourself from the president. Well, it looks like it also distanced himself from the governor's mansion. The elections that happened prior to this past Tuesday night, President Trump wasn't a problem for them. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that had President Trump campaigned with the gubernatorial candidate from the Republican Party, it's possible that things would have turned out differently. I may be wrong, but it's possible. The problem that I see with the Republican establishment, number one, they have never gotten over President Trump's victory. There are many of them who would have been happier had President Trump lost. Now, some of them are starting to come around. The president and Lindsey Graham had some pretty ugly moments. The senator from the Carolinas, Lindsey Graham. The president and Lindsey Graham had some pretty ugly moments. And they've played golf together twice in recent weeks. Which is a lot of time. When you're on the golf course for 3 hours riding around in a cart with somebody, there's a lot of time to brainstorm, talk, chew the fat. And Lindsey Graham, of all people, has been warning Mitch McConnell, specifically by name, that if you don't get your act together, and you don't pass tax cuts, and you don't repeal more of Obamacare, you stand a good chance of losing the Senate, losing control of the Senate in 2018. I don't know if it's going to happen, but Graham is reading the tea leaves. He's saying, look, he won the election, and President Trump, even though his polling numbers are low right now, he has an unshakable base of support, and he tapped into a part of the mood of the country that has had it with illegal immigration, had it with big government, had it with illegal immigrants coming over the border and wants a wall, is a part of the populace that is very suspect of Islamic terrorism being connected directly to Islam. They wanted Obamacare overturned. These are people who had a list, a laundry list that they were fed up about, and they voted for Donald Trump because of what he stood for, but also what he stood against. The very fact that he was willing to go and overturn tables. And the Republican machinery still does not get it. At least a lot of them don't. They just don't get it. So I don't know how things are going to go. It's way too early, and I'll bring you reports as we approach the 2018 elections. We're still a year out, but President Trump had guts and brains and stamina and had a message that resonated with people. And what Gillespie tried to do in Virginia was kind of have a Trump message without Trump. And one point to make, and then we'll move on, is that there's a way If Paul Ryan took all of President Trump's speeches and tried to say the words, it would never work. It would never work. Because it's not a part of who he is. There's something in that bombastic leader that we have as the president that makes his words resonate and makes them have credibility, and it inspires a certain base of the electorate to action. And Gillespie doesn't have it. So, and Paul Ryan doesn't have it. And if these guys don't get it, and I don't mean that spark, but if they don't get the message soon, then the Republicans could lose control of the Senate. They could lose control of the House. And they're going to blame Trump. But I'm telling you, it will be their own fault. That's what Lindsey Graham is saying. I've got to take a break. I want to talk to you about Donna Brazile when we come back. This is a really intense story. Don't go away.
Today, many so-called Christian intellectuals believe that the God of evolution used billions of years of death and destruction to evolve the bodies of the first human beings. Then, they simply declare the theory of evolution as fact to justify their unproven scientific fallacies. By the grace of God, more and more Catholics are rejecting this modern-day mythology in favor of the traditional doctrine of creation, as recorded by the Bible, and believed and taught by all the fathers and doctors of the Church. To find out how sound theology and natural science confirm the sacred history of Genesis, visit the Colby Center for the Study of Creation, and be sure to check out our bookstore, which has titles like I Have Spoken to You from Heaven, A Catholic Defense of Creation in 6 Days, and A Catholic Assessment of Evolutionary Theory. That's the Colby Center for the Study of Creation.
Donna Brazile, you've seen her. You may not remember that she was Vice President Al Gore's campaign manager in the year 2000. She has been a Democrat operative for years, oftentimes a TV host, commentator, author. She's the one who slipped Hillary some of the questions ahead of time in the debate. So she hasn't always been a straight shooter. But she recently released this book. And it's really having a massive impact inside of the Democratic Party, opening up old wounds, but really it's an expose. And I think that, from my perspective, the most damning part of the book for the Democratic leadership is the fact that Hillary controlled the Democrat Party since right after she announced that she was going to run for president. Now, let me tell you in a nutshell what happened. It's all according to Brazile, who had the facts. When President Obama won re-election in 2012, the Democratic National Party was about $24 million in debt, according to Brazile. That's a lot of money. Vendors, banks, and they were slow in raising the money. And when the 2016 election cycle came around, they were still substantially in debt. Hillary and her campaign manager cut a secret deal with the CEO of the Democratic National Committee and the chairman at that time, and Debbie Wasserman was in on all of this, that the Hillary campaign would control the party and its budget, and basically got involved in a money laundering scheme. It'll be interesting to see if there's any charges brought because of what she uncovered, but here it is in a nutshell. If you're a very wealthy person and you want to make a contribution to a political campaign, federal law says you can only give $2,700. That's it. But you can give to PACs, or rather to the party itself, upwards of $350,000. All right? That's significant money. So what Hillary was doing was she was trotting all over the country, and they were giving money to two separate campaigns. One was the Hillary Victory Fund and the other one was the DNC. And the Hillary Victory Fund would give money, all right, not the DNC, but the Hillary Victory Fund would give money to state parties who would then, the next day sometimes, write a check right back to the Democratic National Committee. So Hillary was having people give massive amounts of money that were supposed to be divided up among the states. The states were then turning around and giving it right back to the National Committee. Sound like money laundering to you? And they were keeping 1%. In her book, what she said was that 1% of the millions of dollars raised, 1% stayed in the states for state and local races. 1%. That's almost like mafia style. We're going to skim just 1% off the top for our trouble, and then you can keep the rest. So it gets worse. When she took over, remember Debbie Wasserman Schultz ended up being dismissed right in the middle of the convention. As we went toward the convention, she lost the job. Because there were allegations that the system had been rigged against Bernie. Well, as it turns out, it was. And Donna Brazile, in her book, says that she had to make the call to Bernie. Bernie and her talked, and he said, would you please find out what happened? So she kept on digging and digging and digging, and when she took the position, it was only 2 months from the general, 3 months from the general, the party was still in debt, and they were talking about getting a $2 or a $4 million loan. She said, how could we possibly be in debt with all the money that we're raising? Because the money was going to fund Hillary's campaign. Long story short is that she finally got a document. She found the actual proof that a deal was cut between Hillary's campaign and the DNC, that Hillary would bail the party out. She would raise the money to pay off Obama's debt in exchange for controlling what the party did and how the party spent its money from the moment that she entered the primary. I'll be right back, and you can see where this is going. Bernie got shafted. Don't go away. Have Muslim terrorists hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam? Or is there more to the story? The answer lies in the life of one man, Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Muslim terrorists see themselves inside a 1,400-year-old story, a narrative that focuses on specific events in the life of Muhammad. We are going to look at Muhammad's life using their most sacred literature. We will look at Muhammad at the Battle of Badr. We'll see him deal with those who mock him. We'll see the times when he used deception. We'll witness Muhammad's anti-Semitism. And yes, we will discuss Muhammad and his teachings concerning sex, slavery, and jihad. Friend, if you want to understand Islamic terrorism, get this series today. Politics is ugly business. Politics is often dirty business. We have campaigns so that we don't have wars. The very word campaign prior to common elections meant a military campaign. You read about the Caesars campaigns, they're not talking about elections, they're talking about massive wars. We have elections so that we don't have killings, disappearances, revolution, gunfire. That's why we have elections. Well, war, real war, is a very ugly business. Dead people, deception, right? So politics, to quote a phrase, is war by another means. Politics is war by another means. So given human nature, there's going to be deception, there's going to be collusion, there's going to be corruption because of human nature and because of the nature of campaigns. I wish it wasn't so. I've been the victim of it. I won't go there. But what they did was they broke the rules of the party. See, the way parties are supposed to work is the National Party. If the president is an incumbent of that party, like with Bill Clinton in 1996 or Barack Obama in 2012, the president is the head of the party. So the National Party being at the disposal of the president is totally accepted. It's acceptable and it's accepted. Both parties do this, the Republicans and the Democrats. But when the incumbent is not running, again, such as Obama in 2016, the way the process is supposed to work is that the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, or the GOP, the Republican establishment, is supposed to not pick a side. And we saw that with Reince Priebus when he was the chair of the Republican National Committee. He did not pick sides. He said, I'm staying out of this. Let the primary process do its job, and it did. He was honorable. But what the Democrats did, the secret collusion, is that they took control of the party and put it under Hillary's campaign from the day that she stepped into the race, long before the first primary. Total violation of protocol and principle, and it therefore ended up being rigged for Hillary. And Donna is trying to say, well, no, it wasn't rigged. Now she's backpedaling a little bit, but the record of what happened is clear. She doesn't want to say it was rigged. She just says it favored Hillary. And there's a long passage in her of her calling Bernie and then crying when she got off the phone, because Hillary's campaign headquarters out of Brooklyn, New York, was controlling the Democratic National Committee. Their budget, she said that we were put on life support by the Hillary campaign. The National Party, the Democratic National Party, was in a shambles, and Hillary's people basically bought it. They bought the party apparatus. And then Donna Brazile said it was like a cult. The further it went, it was impenetrable. They were arrogant. They wouldn't listen to people. And Bernie said to her, in September before the election, what do you think Hillary's chances are? The polls say she's going to win. And Brazile said, I don't trust the polls. I've been to the various states that are swing states, and I don't see enthusiasm. I don't see the Obama coalition holding together. You might remember, if you're a regular viewer of the show, that when we took the show on the road and did that 14-day tour trying to stop Hillary in Florida and in North Carolina, I came out of the Daytona Beach Hillary event. I was there. I confronted Hillary to her face. I told my viewers, Donald Trump is going to be the next president. After that day, what I saw in that meeting, I said, Donald Trump is going to be the next president. Bernie was having incredible crowds, incredible enthusiasm. Hillary had teeny crowds, no enthusiasm. But she owned the party apparatus. She paid for it. So Donna Brazile said she had to call Bernie and say, I found the proof. I found the letter. And then it all made sense. And now she's come out with it in her book. And oh my goodness, to talk about the Democratic Party having egg on its face. They're really happy to be talking about these past Tuesday elections, especially Virginia, because they don't want to be talking about this book. But the book showed a level of corruption and collusion between the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary campaign that even exceeded what Bernie and Bernie's people thought about. So I believe that the release of this book sinks Hillary's chances of being the nominee, because she's still thinking about running. But this is going to haunt her because it was so unethical. And I don't know enough about campaign law to know if it was illegal money laundering, but I guarantee you it was money laundering. I've got to take a break. We'll talk about President Trump's trip a little bit when we come back. And what about Bernie Sanders? Could he run? Don't go away. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life. Best-selling author Dr. Bill Warner said, What Would Mohammed Do is the best movie series, TV production on the life of Muhammad and Islamic terrorism that has ever been produced. Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700. That's 304-289-3700, or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Friend, we have a series that will help you and those you love to have an impact on this country. It's called Insurrecta Nex. That's Latin for revolution against the killing of innocent people. This is the history, the philosophy, and the theology of social revolution in America. We look at the Stamp Act, the Boston Tea Party, the abolition of slavery, the abolition of child labor, women's voting rights, the civil rights movement. All of them have this in common: courage, sacrifice, dedication, and in-your-face tactics and rhetoric. That's one of the reasons that we've been losing the culture wars the last 40 years, is because the bad guys are using these tactics and we aren't. We will send you this 14-part TV series along with these manuals for students, a teacher's facilitator guide for only $40. Go to 304-289-3700, 304-289-3700. Will Bernie Sanders seek the nomination? It's possible. Now, the issue, just to be blunt, is his age. And I don't mean that as a critique of him being 76 years old right now. The issue is strength, stamina, the rigors of a campaign. He did really well in 2016 health-wise. He would be the oldest man elected to the presidency. He'd be 79, pushing 80 years old. President Reagan used to be the oldest man elected to the presidency. He was 69 and turned 70 shortly after he got in office. Donald Trump was 70 and I think over 300 days. I mean, he was well on his way to being 71 when he won the election and then took the oath of office. Oldest man to ever be elected to the presidency. President Reagan, as the incumbent, won again when he was 73, but that he was already the incumbent. So the momentum goes to the incumbent, as we know. So, will Bernie run again? I don't know. I can tell you one thing: he can generate a crowd, and having President Trump in the White House will be a great foil for Bernie if he decides to run, because he's got huge name recognition and he's got such a populist message. On the far left, President Trump has a populist message: nationalism, independence. Bernie has a socialist, communism light message. All right, President Trump's trip to the Far East. We're almost out of time here. In South Korea, stirred up a hornet's nest by just saying, look, we're going to support you. To the leader of the South Koreans and to South Korea, we are going to support you. So if anything happens, if there is a war on the Korean Peninsula, you need to know that North Korea will be defeated, but it would be a horrific, horrific war. The biggest loss of life. I was with a friend recently who is a colonel on his way to becoming a brigadier general, active duty, and he said that the thing that keeps most military guys up at night, the place that they're most worried about, is the Korean Peninsula. Because if a shooting war happens there, it will be the bloodiest war, numbers of dead in a matter of days that the world has ever seen. The president said, we're going to support you. Went on to Japan, or it might have been vice versa. Japan might have been first, but in Japan, he said, go ahead and shoot Korean missiles out of the sky with our blessing. Use the technology. And Japan has not been considered a war nation at any level. It's become an economic power, but not a war nation since its defeat at the end of World War II. So to say that changes the dynamic in the Pacific Rim in a significant way. And then he went on to talk to the executives of the car manufacturing wing of Japan's economy, and said it's very rude that you don't buy American cars and allow them to come into your country, but you're shipping millions of autos into the U.S. To use the word rude was really an insult. And then finally in China, it was great because he said to the Chinese, by the way, he was helped by his granddaughter singing in Mandarin, 5 or 6 years old. That was amazing. But he said, I don't blame the Chinese for doing what's in their interest, taking advantage of trade deals, doing what's best for its country. Wink, wink. Because he's saying, I'm going to do it for our country. And that is what he will do, friends. And that's why, man, oh man, just can you imagine if Hillary Clinton was president? Let's just stop and thank God right now that Hillary is not president. Thank you, Lord. I'll talk to you soon.